Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. As we continue our series on the principles of the Second Vatican Council, today we address the last of those 10 principles issued by Avery Dulles. And so today's Do You Know question is, do you know how Vatican II clarified the social mission of the Church? Since the Reformation, the Church's mission has been almost exclusively a spiritual one, which meant aiding people to gain heaven. The focus seemed to be almost exclusively on saving one's soul. This me and Jesus or me and God approach really was so person-centered and so individually centered that the social transformation of society was not really paid that much attention to. So with the late 19th century and the early 20th century, we have some encyclicals written by various popes, especially Leo XIII and Pius XI, who started to work towards the mission of the Church focusing on a just social order, the transforming of society to a just social order, talking about workers, wages, and so on. And the rationale for why we do this was based on the principles of natural law. With the Second Vatican Council and with the inspiration of Pope John XXIII and many of the bishops that came as the Second Vatican Council, with the Second Vatican Council we have the shift away from the principles of natural law to justify a just social order, but rather shifting it to the fundamental and most significant gospel values, especially modeled on the person of Jesus and his concern for a just society, especially his concern for the poor, the oppressed, and so on. And so the Vatican II principles were based primarily on gospel social values, and gospel values that really called us to build up the reign of God in our midst and so on. And so the work of the Second Vatican Council was aimed at that from the very beginning. And I'd like to quote just one comment from a document, or at least an address made by the Vatican II participants to the world, called the Council's Message to the World, that was issued on October the 20th, 1962. And here's what they said, part of that document with regards to a just world. It says, the Pope urges all to social justice. The doctrine outlined in the encyclical letter Mater et Magister, Mother and Teacher, clearly shows how the Church is needed by the world today to denounce injustices and shameful inequalities, and to restore the true order of goods and things, so that, according to the principles of the gospel, the life of human beings may become more human. So that was at the beginning of the council, and then of course the council produced the second document on the Church, the Pastoral Constitution on the Church in the Modern World, called Gaudium et Spes in Latin, and in that it affirmed very strongly the need for the Church's role in society, in transforming society according to gospel values. This is number 42 of Gaudium et Spes, which says that Christ did not bequeath to the Church a mission in the political, economic, or social order. The purpose he assigned to it was religious. But this religious mission can be the source of commitment, direction, and vigor to establish and consolidate the human family according to the law of God. In fact, the Church is able, indeed it is obliged, if times and circumstances require it, to initiate action for the benefit of others, especially of those in need, such as works of mercy and the like. So obviously very clear, this is one of the last documents from the Second Vatican Council which addresses the whole notion of engaging the world in such a way so as to transform it by means of gospel values. Much progress has been made since the Council with regards to advancing the Church's mission to social justice. Pope Paul VI, especially in his encyclical on the progress of peoples, the Synod of Justice in the World in 1971, the Latin American conferences of bishop at Medellin in 1968 and in Puebla in 1979 all addressed the issue of the transformation of the world and the mission of the Church to transform the world according to gospel values and the modeling of Jesus. Pope Paul is especially emphasized a statement in a little sentence that is attributed to him, that if you want peace, you work for justice. In other words, a just world will ultimately produce peace and harmony among all of God's people. So the struggle for justice is constitutive to the mission of the Church, especially modeled on Jesus with a preferential option for the poor. And that preferential option for the poor, the oppressed, the stranger, the alienated, the foreigner, all of those things model themselves on Jesus. And these are all constitutive dimensions of the mission of the Church. Pope Francis is very much in tune with this, and especially in his famous encyclical on the environment, Laudato Si, especially praising God and on the care of our common home. The caution in all of this, of course, is that while the Church has a right to really work at transforming society and removing injustices according to gospel values, it also has to be open to the possibility that its own members and other people might disagree with its approach and with its understanding of what's needed. And therefore, dialogue, understanding, mutual discussion, and so on is consistently needed if we are to consistently try to address social political issues according to gospel values and bringing that lens onto the situations. So what's needed all the time is actually a constant effort to address social political issues according to the gospel values, and the model should also be Jesus, who is always attuned to others and their needs. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit of how the Vatican Council really addressed the issue of the social mission of the Church, clarified it for us, and I hope you'll return again to more Do You Know series questions as we conclude and end our series on the Second Vatican Council. Thank you very much.